11 on hit. No guard! It's gonna be real silly when I get a Persona Blast. Oh! Oh!
Hey everyone, this is Curve Knight bringing you another history match. Today we are continuing with the BT6 content in a slight arc that I would like to call Darren Beats My Ass with Gold Paladin. So, of course, today I'm going to be starting off with Angel Feather, taking on the best deck of the format, of course, that being Gold Paladin. So now, of course, Angel Feathers are technically a new clan introduced in BT6, and unlike a lot of the clans from BT 1 and 2, they did get a full wave of support. So let's see how that support is going to let them take on, you know, Gold Paladins, a clan essentially released in the same set, but has the added benefit of, you know, having a trial deck. So, of course, I unfortunately am going to be missing the Ride Chain here, running into my 8k Vanilla instead of the Ergodiel, which is what this deck is currently focused on. You could theoretically play a more generic build with Curio as the main unit, but of course I wanted to try out the Ergodiel because I think it's a triple rare and it's really cool, as we'll be seeing in this match. Anyways, we do see Ezel kind of rushing, calling down the Slagle as well as the Chargal, rushing a little bit, pushing, I think was that 1 damage. And we see the Bowmains being ridden here, which is insanely terrifying because as we can see there are 2 more Garmors in hand. So calling the Garmor and then sliding them into Soul along with the Criff is going to allow you to superior ride into the Blonde Ezel, which is honestly just like the main thing that makes Gold Paladins so powerful. Just having access to Twin Drive 1 turn earlier just puts them honestly a little bit a step ahead, not to mention all the superior calling that they get access to, the tutoring that you have with Garmor, and the access to Limit Break to increase your power at during the mid to late game is just kind of just really overpowering. Ezel himself, of course, getting 1k power for every unit on the board. We see a draw trigger being flipped here and a critical trigger here, pushing me to 3, and then this Garmor is going to swing for 27 against my 9k Vanguard. Just going to be too much, so I'm just going to take it and go straight to 4. So I'm going to go ahead and ride into the Grade 3 Ergodiel and proc the skill of the Grade 2 Ergodiel, putting 2 cards in my damage zone, going up to 6 damage. Whoa! But of course you do actually have to finish resolving the effects before you check whether you have lost or not. And of course Ergodiel skill lets you add 2 different cards, well not 2 different, just any 2 cards back to your hand, which is you know, just gonna let you or basically let you tutor out basically anything you need. So Angel Feather is an okay deck at this point. I mean, I think it might be better than Kagero at this instant, but that's honestly just because Kagero is really bad and lacking for a lot of its support. We are actually seeing the on-hit being procced here. We took the Ergodiel, and I drove check another copy of the Cosmo Healer Ergodiel, allowing me to Counterblast 2 and Persona Blast in order to just straight up heal 1 damage, which might not seem like a big deal, but honestly it kind of is not that big of a deal, but it's a big deal to us. And besides, anyway, in this format, like, pushing any sort of damage does kind of mean quite a bit. I mean, literally just healing a damage means that your opponent has to kind of, you know, catch up, get that damage back. But of course, when you're playing a deck like Gold Paladins, that's not necessarily the most difficult thing in the world. We do see Blonde Ezel finally whiffing off of his skill, calling that heal trigger, which is, you know, something that's to be expected since Ezel in, of course, the original only calls the top card instead of like the top 3 like it did in 0. But we still have a decent number of attacks here. Those 3 attacks hitting for decent numbers, not the greatest numbers. Of course, you know, Garmor boosting a a heal trigger is not going to be hitting very strong, but they do manage to take out one of my rear guards. As you can see, I am running pretty low in hand size here. I can't really commit to a whole nother column. I don't really have the cards for it. But honestly, having those, what are they? The 10k vanillas are just really good in this format because, you know, they're able to hit most Vanguards unboosted still. Obviously, once the game progresses to be more 11k centric, things are going to be changing in that sense, in which case the hot commodity will be probably 12k attackers. But you know, the game does actually adapt to that. Anyways, getting back to the match, we do see the Garmar being ridden here, counterblasting the 2, calling out that trip. So we do technically have access to counter charge, but of course that is going to be on hit. And thanks to that charge goal that we called earlier, this Garmar is going to be able to be swinging for really, really big. Now, we did actually notice in the last turn, I didn't mention it, but hopefully you guys noticed, we did actually give power from a defensive trigger to the rear guard. He was kind of just baiting me to attack into him and give him limit break, and honestly, I just kind of took the bait because I felt like I was running really far behind in this match, and I kind of needed to catch up. But honestly, in hindsight, I think probably I should have just tried to stall the game out as much as possible. With the amount of tutoring that Angel Feather technically has access to, it is totally possible to just like stall out your opponent. But then again, when you're against something like Gold Paladin that can like easily replenish its resources by like with using their counter blasts, it might not always be the most advantageous. So honestly, I could probably just commit to swing to rears here, probably get the same amount of shield value out. But I'm gonna try and push. You know, 1 critical will seal the deal, but you know, you actually have to draw the critical there, unlike what I did there, which is a double blank. Swing the 14 at the rear guard because it is just a more magic number. It's a 5k guard if I attack the Vanguard, but if I attack the trip, it is a 10k guard. So obviously just trying to reduce as much pressure as I can. We see a Flame of Victory being used here, giving 3k power to the Garmar. Normally, if I were an 10k base, that would be a really magic number. That would be 20. But since I have the copy of the Fate Healer in the soul, Cosmo Healer is going to be at that 11k base. But of course, another Flame of Victory is going to make quick work of that, as we see the Garmar swing for another very big swing. Going to be taking it this time. We get a critical trigger, giving the crit to the Vanguard, power to that Bowmane, but of course that is actually the end of the match. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to do all those YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.